150 miles per hour. You buy from the two market players that are dominating the market. They're essentially selling you a Lexus or a Mercedes. The forward focus of this industry is a startup company out of Georgia Tech, actually, so it might lead us to further possibly have the possibilities of getting this grant. And it is $1,500 per year subscription rate per camera. When I initially had looked at this, I was thinking of the 16 entrance and exit points we have around the city. That's 32 bi-directional cameras at a cost of $48,000 a year. Max speed that it captures is 65 miles per hour. There's multiple funding sources, particularly one that immediately comes to mind with license plate readers. If we were to do a net, as Councilman Adams recommended, or specifically located license plate readers, the uptick, per conversation with Chief Klavasek, car break-ins is largely focused at the hotels around the city. So maybe hotel motel tax could be used. Particularly flock safety also adds an added benefit of car counting. So we have that data from flock safety, so you can capture the amount of ingress and egress at a given geographic locale. They are almost to the point of tying into Vigilance server, so it would have a small time delay, but a essential tie-in to dispatch as well in the coming future. I'm in favor of doing that as well, because that can be placed on public land and that becomes a public to public with a public placement. We have plenty of unused Wi-Fi poles around town. So I'm not sure if we want to.
Well, I know we currently, when there's an event that occurs, a car break-in or something like that, if there are cameras in the area and our officers are aware of it, they will pull that video.
Sure.
At one time, we were talking about formulating a database of people that had video cameras to register their cameras. I don't know how up to date that information is, but so the folks that wanted to let officers know that I have a camera system in this area. So
And I think the good thing from a civil liberties perspective as well, flock safety can, if it's so desired by the administrator, which I would assume in this case would be the police department, if they want to give the opportunity for residents of a given area to opt out of their license plate being tracked, that they can log in to the system, verify that they're a resident, and say, I don't want 1, 2, 3, 4 ABC being tracked. But the larger benefit, I think, of that is we often say, well, we think we have 50,000 people in the city at a given point during daytime and 8 to 10,000 at nighttime, but do we really know that? Do we know where they're coming from? I think the benefit with flock in that case is that it also focuses on like an export that you can get for which county are they coming from. Do we have people come from Coweta, Henry, or is everybody that's coming to Hapeville from Fulton? So,
and I think in addition to that, that flock safety does give us the leverage as far as looking at different modes of whether it's vehicular, pedestrian, or cyclist, of what's also coming from the city as well. I know that some city of Atlanta and DeKalb County employs flock safety as well.
I think LaGrange just did an
LaGrange
installation.
just came on board as well.
If we did that, I really think a hotel motel tax would be the prime area that we could pull from a trade and tourism perspective, if you took that angle of ingress and egress to the city. And also if you co-located it with the hotels on public land, but at a location that's focused towards hotels, would in favor of keeping the dollar amount the same?
I think we need to get into budget before we start talking about, my own opinion is, because we got some pretty grim needs about our health insurance.
All right.
And I don't know how that, I'm just expressing my opinion, there's 5 of us up here. But I'm very concerned about what the outcome of that's gonna be. I'm very concerned about, the continued, basically freezing in tax values on the digest for Fulton County. I don't see our income increasing in the upcoming budget year. Tim, is there something I'm missing?
I can address, I'll start addressing in the city manager report.
Okay.
Well, unless there's a motion to amend this, we pass on the.
Well, right now, we on the agenda tonight, we have the Ring doorbell, so does anyone want to make a motion to amend the agenda to take up another item, or?
I motion to amend the agenda to look at implementing the feasibility of implementation of flock safety and replacement of Ring.
Motion to amend the agenda, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I was thinking, when we were discussing flock, something like the Ring doorbell is only so effective if it's not triangulated with something else. For instance, I can see a person, but if I don't know who that person is, then that information is only so useful. But with clock, I can't talk today, I'm sorry. I have teacher brain.
Summer will be here soon.
Yeah, got a fever.
Flock.
With flock, if a license plate is captured, then it's shared with other cities who use the same technology for something similar to that, correct?
I didn't arrive at that conclusion with them that it's shared with other cities, but if it ties into, if it ties into
It pulls from a database.
dispatch, it would
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
by way of process.
Right, so, I like this idea, but on a larger scale, I think that flock would be more beneficial as far as public safety.
Sure.
Now, if we can find something along the way, like I was thinking, there's more than one way to come up with $14,000. To combine that with Ring, I know it probably couldn't be through this grant, but just something to think about with time.
Yeah, I mean,
That would be great.
I think the visioning aspect of this is what Georgia Tech desires that the city that's doing it or the region that's doing it comes out with, which is a Aerotropolis-centric plan, a Hateville, half of East Point plan, a Hateville-only plan for what's the smart city dynamic look like down the road.
Connect South Fulton, you talked about the hotels earlier. Connect South Fulton, which is an economic development initiative that we're a part of with the other cities in South Fulton. They're in discussions now. Of course, the new city of South Fulton might not want to participate in that, so that whole organization may fall apart. But
Or
yeah,
change its name.
one of the discussions that they've been having is working with hotels about networking video because it's a problem we all face on the south side, and it's everywhere in Atlanta now, are the break-ins in hotel parking lots, car break-ins. So it's an ongoing issue. The CIDs are already working on interconnecting video, but those can only be done in the CID areas. So there's some regional collaboration that's already occurring in this realm, because we are all facing the same problem in the metropolitan Atlanta area in terms of this kind of stuff. It's not a special need, but.
And I guess that being said, with it being seconded as flock, I know there's citizens groups, neighborhood associations that have a budget that are willing to work towards something like this, so I would love to help y'all collaborate with that company. I think it's still a noble idea. The end goal here is to get more eyes on the ground, be that digital or human, but in this case digital, that can assist.
Why don't we consider maybe looking at deployment of 1 or 2 of the units to see how they do?
Or two of.
The block units.
Blocks.
I mean,
You were talking about
it,
every entrance and exit to the city. What if we install them and they don't work as advertised? Then that money's just
Well, we don't even have to do this if that's the case. I think it has to be at a certain dollar threshold for Georgia Tech.
Okay,
So-
I'm getting the two things confused, I guess.
And Flock
I
has
think we're
data.
back to the budget. This, sorry to interrupt you, but this discussion seems to have gone off the road here from where it originated. So y'all can go forward with your motions. I don't think I'm gonna be supporting it tonight.
Well, and that's on, yeah. So Travis said that this probably could be a potential hotel motel tax carved out. But we could follow with DCA to see.
Somebody else will be a loser if that happens.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Who did that? Excuse me.
Yes.
We don't want to push any envelopes with those hotel taxes.
That's fine.
That'll be something we need to validate. So, and again, I go with what Alderman Moran said, until we have some kind of idea as to where we're looking financially, I think we're gonna have to take some baby steps and some of these things.
So the,
Again, my opinion.
I have a motion and a second, those,
I was just gonna ask, the money has to come from the city?
No.
So if the funds aren't matched, we lose the grant. If we don't apply, we don't get the grant.
All right, so you're saying this grant is not just for Ring doorbells, it could work for these other cameras too?
the grant is for anything that helps the city have a long-term vision of becoming a smart city, which the misnomer is typically stated as implementing Internet of Things technology, something that's connected to the World Wide Web that makes the city a smarter place.
Does the grant require a match or does it not?
It does require money be put forth, but as I presented earlier, it doesn't have to be just from the city. So in that case, the way I initially wrote it, I didn't ask for 28,000, I was asking for 14,000 and secured the 25% discount. They said that discount from the vendor as well as that 14,000 would equal the matching part that they would be able to provide if we wanted the grant. So if we provide 2,000, I think that's below the threshold. If we provide 3,000, that's below the threshold. I don't have the exact number on the top of my head, but I think coming away from this, even if we propose it and pass it tonight, sort of giving me the authorization to submit the grant application, sans a dollar amount, it still gives us the open opportunity that if they say, hey, April, you got it, then we can cross that boundary when it gets there. If we don't have the money, then we just don't fulfill what the grant's asking for.
But doesn't it go back to what our attorney was saying, that the anti-tourist?
Not for these cameras.
Oh, for Flock.
They would be,
Flock.
you're right,
Okay,
they would be
Placed on
public right away.
gotcha.
And then also, I mean, you can't lose. It's like lottery, you can't win if you don't play. So I don't see anything wrong with replacing Ring with Flock and applying for it. And like you said, we might not get it at all, but once we reach that, if we do get it, then move on from there. And then speaking to their effectiveness, they have data that shows that in certain areas where Flock has been installed, they've had I think 53% reduction in petty crime. So they do have evidence for the effectiveness of it as a net.
So could we potentially take the lowest amount if we decide to do this and pass it, versus $14,000? Can we take the lowest amount allowable to apply?
I tried to channel my 45-page PDF.
Because Mike makes a good point too, that we have public safety officers that are asking for raises that need EMS.
I didn't say they were asking.
No, well, I'm just saying.
I'm saying we
Well,
can't give them a raise.
Well,
Don't make it sound like that I'm being personally pestered.
I think the intention that Mark's getting to is if we pass this without a dollar amount, authorizing the city of Hapeville to apply for the grant without a dollar amount, it still lets us apply for it. And we can put tiered amounts in there. One camera, 1,500, two cameras, 3,000, three cameras, 4,500. It's not like it goes down or goes up. It's just a linear curve. So we can tell them if the city puts forward money for 3 cameras, we'll end up installing 6 if Georgia Tech gives us 4,500. If we put 1, Georgia Tech would give us enough money for 1. I believe there is a dollar amount that we don't have to bind ourselves to a dollar amount. I just want authorization to apply for this and to show that there is a 3-1 vote. 4-0.
I believe in the power of crowdfunding. I think there's more than one way to get money for this. I think there's enough
I don't
support.
disagree with you there at all.
Just from people who are concerned about crime, who'd be willing to invest in it. There are private sources.
You
there's
talking
other
for
public
flock or
sources
ring?
For flock,
Yeah.
to meet that match that's required. So I don't see what we'd be losing by authorizing you to proceed
Okay.
Proceed without the dollar amount?
or with it. Because at worst case scenario, if we get the grant and we can't fulfill the match, then we just lose the grant.
Yes.
But we're not losing anything by applying for it.
Okay, so we amended the agenda to discuss this, but we didn't, you didn't make a motion to do the flock yet, did y'all? I know we made.
Motion on the floor
Motion.
to amend the agenda.
Motion on the floor to amend the agenda, and we're in the discussion for that? Is that where we're at? Wow, I got lost along the way, so I'm sorry. This thing's moving too fast for me. All right, so we're in discussion of amending the agenda, so we need to vote on that. Then somebody can make a motion to call the question on this. All right, so all in favor of the motion to amend the agenda, raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay, 3-1. Okay, now, a motion to proceed somehow or another? Anyone?
I so moved to proceed.
Okay, so you want to seek the entire grant, it's the entire $14,000? Okay. All right, so, Councilman Alexander made a motion to seek the entire $14,000 grant from Georgia Tech for the IoT Smart City.
Wait a second, I just need to clarify. Do we need to change the if the city allocates so that we're not?
You can reflect how you want it to read by inserting it into your motion.
This currently is in the shredder, so make the motion as you.
I so move as long as the city is not required to provide the match for the
Okay.
grant.
All right, so her motion is to seek the $14,000, provided the city doesn't have to have the match and other funding sources become available. Is that a fair way?
Can we make it 20,000 then?
Let's make it $1 million.
We fought to get this far.
I think let's keep it at 14. Keep it at 14.
He wants to make it 20. You want to go 20, or you want to keep it at 14?
$1 off. No, what I'm thinking of, this price is dependent upon, I'm assuming you calculated the cost of each ring camera at $99. Where's the $14,000 coming from?
$14,000 originally came from looking at the budget presented by Liberty Technology to install 16 multi-directional high-definition cameras at 16 different intersections around town at $7,000 a pop per camera.
Because I'm thinking if we raise it to 15, that would give us 30 flock cameras for a
Those cameras are
year.
what, $1,500 a piece?
For a year.
Per year.
But is that installed? Is that in a cabinet? They have to have power? They have to have...
They're solar powered.
They're solar powered, so I think that's included installation.
Yeah, they own the
Yeah,
cameras.
yeah.
Or we can get 15 cameras for 2
If they get
years.
destroyed, they come back and replace it for free.
Yeah.
And that includes, there's no installation fee?
That's everything.
That's everything.
Plus the connection to their server.
All right. So motion on, where are you gonna put your dollar amount, Chloe?
I'm gonna raise it to 15,000.
Okay, so her motion is 15,000.
Second.
Second discussion. There being none, all in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries.
So,
All right. Tim? City manager report.
As we have been talking around it, this is the budget planning season for the city. This week, our department heads are getting to our finance director, their initial budget plans. Next week, I'm going to be sitting down with my department heads with the actual paperwork in order to scrub the numbers, go through the assumptions, and then make any kind of initial adjustments. In early May, after the May council meeting, we're going to start inviting the city council members individually or in groups of 2 to sit down with department heads and then go over the assumptions, et cetera, for the next week, so that by the 15th meeting, the second meeting in May, we'll actually want to present our initial first reading for the 2019 budget, with the goal of the first meeting in June to be able to put forth the second reading, and if we needed to, then for some reason have push it to the second meeting, we'd still be covered before the June, before the new fiscal year starts. As you have mentioned, we do have some challenges. We do have some challenges which we are hopefully addressing, and hopefully we'll have those kind of landed a little bit better down before the first meeting in May. There are a couple things that we've already talked about expense-wise. We do have some concerns on the revenue side too. We still are dealing with Fulton County. Fulton County is having a court appearance with the state, I believe the 31st of May, in order to basically certify that the 2017 digest was valid. And I expect that will probably be a yes, but we don't know that. Second, also, then we don't know whether or not the, basically the assessments for this year are going to go up or they're going to be frozen. So there are a lot of assumptions we still don't know. So that means we probably are going to have to budget flat for this year, with probably a little bit lower revenue budgeted number than we did for 2017, 18. So this is what we're planning right now, and just wanted to advise council of where we are.
Thank you, Tim. All right, at this time, I'll open the floor for public comments. This would be a question or comment about anything that you'd like to talk about tonight. I'll start on my right hand side.
Right. 30 seconds.
Right. And
Dave, 30 Oh, I'm sorry. I'm used to singing that. Thank you. Sorry. That teacher brain thing must have went out in the audience. I apologize.
I try to alternate. I'll open one side up for one comment and the other side up.
I got it.
John Berry, 3326 North Whitney. I can't pass this up. I need to ask a question before I proceed. Last meeting, there was discussion about the True Hotel and the funding for it, or the bond issues for it. Where does that item stand at this point?
The item that was up for discussion at our last meeting was an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Development Authority, which would have facilitated the deal to happen, and that was voted down. So there is no intergovernmental agreement in place. So the True Hotel deal, as far as I know, is a dormant issue or dead issue.
It's amazing how
Your phone rings.
the phone rings. It's amazing. We have a hotel that wants to come into the community and will generate millions of dollars of revenue. And we're sitting here discussing a $14,000 project. Now, this is ludicrous. Now, I understand there's some issues with the hotel and their appraisals, their possibility of wanting a pilot bond and so forth. But I really would like to see the council revisit this item, because I think there's items that are not considered in a normal course of talking about a pilot bond. If you don't have a hotel, you don't have 150 or 200 jobs for your citizens in town. You don't have millions of dollars of revenue for the local businesses in town. The True Hotel is a modern style hotel by Hilton, no restaurant involved. If you stay there 2 days, you've got to eat somewhere in town. You've got to eat at the Corner Tavern, you've got to eat at Chick-fil-A, you've got to eat somewhere. That revenue is gone at this point. And now we got the hotel motel tax that we're not going to get. And this is such a specific item because it's on property owned by Porsche. And if Porsche does not get what Porsche wants, there's not going to be a hotel there. Now, I understand you, in a roundabout way, say we could maybe make a better deal for a hotel in town, but you have to find some place to put it, because unless the group at Porsche and the Hilton Group acquiesce and fund it themselves, it's not going to happen, and it probably won't. And then there's a worse possibility: they get funding from the city of Atlanta. And being contiguous with the city of Atlanta, there is always the possibility of being annexed into the city, and we lose them all. I mean, it just seems far-fetched to turn down a project that you had in your hand. May not have been the greatest terms in the world, but a project that was going to develop huge revenue for the city over a number of years, and for whatever reason, we didn't entertain that bond. I don't understand how you can do that. I certainly would ask the council to get back with the Development Authority and revisit this thing. See if some of the numbers I understood were not exactly right on both ends of the ledger, but those numbers should be worked out, could be worked out, and then go forward with a project that has got to be very beneficial for the city. I mean, think about what you did tonight. You spent hours talking about putting in speed bumps in town, and last meeting you spent about 10 minutes turning down millions of dollars in revenue for the city. It makes absolutely no sense.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Any other comments or questions on my right? Lucy?
Lucy Dolan, 3438 Parkview Place, Hapeville. I wanted to thank you all for the work you've done tonight talking about the speed bumps. It's a big issue for the residents in Virginia Park, and as one of our other citizens spoke up, it's a big issue for other areas of the city, which I hope will be taken up at a later time. Both Wheeler and Russell Streets are now in the Northwoods Neighborhood Association, and we have other streets in that area that are also suffering from increased amount of traffic. I also want to thank you for the decision you made last week. I'm in direct opposition with our previous commenter. I'm very grateful for what you did. I understand it's a very contentious area, but there are differences of opinions, and I thank you very much for your attention and for the work you did, and I approve that particular decision. I think we'll move forward. I think Hapeville is at a turning point right now. It's a fabulous place to be. I think that investors need to understand that, and I believe they will. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments on my right? I'll move to my left.
I'm
Sorry.
Sorry, over here. Katie Gregory, 903 Hester Street. I just wanted to point out in the resolution, I know that speed and traffic and is a citywide issue, and that other neighborhoods will be looking to this. And if the, as Chief and there stated, if we're being able to enforce the residential speed limit because of posted residential signs, that would be something that you could extend into all residential areas of Havel. So therefore, that could be enforced without the 10 mile per hour over, and you could quickly kind of curb, hopefully, some of that speeding, or at least make it where somebody may not want to drive through because you're at a bigger risk for getting ticketed, and that's a very small item that could be expanded throughout Havel and have a big impact on that to help the rest of the city and those neighborhoods as well.
Very good. Thank you.
George Rogan, 2108 Woodland Drive. You may have answered this, Mr. Young, but the audit, is that going to be ready yet?
We expect to have that on the next meeting.
Oh, you're going to have the next meeting?
That's what we expected.
Okay, thank you. Is it possible that you can put it on the website so that we could see it before the meeting?
If it
If it is in its final form, as soon as it's in its final form and we get the final copy, then we post that on the website.
Right, could somebody put it on next door that it's on there?
It would probably, if it's part of the discussion in the next meeting, whatever packet is provided by the auditors will be part of the agenda packet like it normally is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on all that? Okay, we'll get into council comment. I'll start with you, Councilman Allen, then. Alderman Rest? Councilman Allen?
Sure. Actually, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that the Tri-Cities is having a small business fair Wednesday, May 2nd from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's a collaboration between College Park, East Point, and Hapeville. So if you know anybody that's interested, has a small business, please let them know. They can go and onto Eventbrite and get a ticket. Its cost is $10. Gotcha. Also, some of the agenda items will consist of like hitting a home run, basically highlighting how to start and run a home-based business. Also, there will be a representative from the state to talk about getting a cottage kitchen license. You have the state for film as well. Also, you also have a representative from Wells Fargo, Bob Johnson, and Jamie Adams from Archer's Brewing will be there as well, and also Joe